Oh, this ain't a regular love, babe. It's that waking out your sleep with me massaging your feet, babe. It's that anything you want, I'm only here to please you. Until I met you, and I don't know if it's real or is it just a phase I go through, but I feel that it's true. We don't need no labels, babe. What we got is something different. We don't need no labels, babe. Lady, we don't need no labels to show that what we have is something special. For sure, for sure. I don't feel it's a one night stand. No, no, no. It's that look you in your eyes, make love in paradise. A one life stand. It's that sweep you off your feet, give you everything you need. That's what I'm feeling. It's that don't pick up the phone, cause we wanna be alone. And I never thought I'd feel this way, then you came along and proved me wrong. Oh no, I never had an interest in you until I met you. And I don't know if it's real, or is it just a phase I go through, but I feel that it's true. We don't need no labels, babe. What we got is something different. We don't need no labels, babe. Lady, we don't need no labels to show that what we have is something special. For sure. Since you came in my life, I see so clear now, yeah. You're so special, no need for label.
You sure looking good tonight, baby. I just wanna,
Oh, baby,
I just wanna make sweet love to you tonight, baby.
come on.
If you don't mind, you know.
Whoa, whoa.
Let me tell you.
Hey there, sexy lady of my dreams. Can I have you here with me? I just wanna love you down. Yeah. I'm making you scream my name. Oh, I'm gone. Loving your body. I'll be kissing your body. And I'll be caressing your body. Oh, baby, just come on. Loving your body. I'll be loving, feeling your body. And I'm gonna touching your body all night, baby. Now I'm about to fulfill your fantasy. So come a little closer, bring your body to me. I'm trying to take my time, I won't rush at all, 'cause you deserve the best. I'm gonna love, I'm gonna kissing your body until the morning comes. Oh, baby, just come on, come on. Loving your body. Tonight, let's get it on. Get it on. I want love. Kissing your body. All night, baby. Oh, baby. Don't stop long. Just let me love you. I just wanna touch you all night long. Come on. Wanna do it again. I wanna do it again. I just can't get enough of you, baby. I just wanna feel you tonight, baby. Makes me love. If you don't mind, sip a little wine, spend a little time. Ooh, I wanna makes me love. Ooh, I wanna makes me love. Ooh, I wanna makes me love.
WIFTBPM.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the In the Zone podcast. We are on the What's in It for the Black People Network. Happy to see you again. It's Wednesday. It's a little chilly, but it's all good. We got Trump on the run. I don't know if he's going to get actually, convicted, but anything that harasses that man, I am for. I am co-signing to the fullest. Let's get him going. Hey, got a great show planned for you guys today. As always, I have some lovely folks in the room. First and foremost, let me say hello to my consistent co-host on the Blackboard, which is another web TV show. We'll talk about that later. Keisha, what's going on, lady?
I don't think we've been in the same room together since
Ever.
September.
Yeah, and we wasn't even in a room. We were outside somewhere.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
That's right. Get up on that mic, girl.
Man, I'm glad to be here.
Pull it up.
boss. Looking forward to talking about careers and all the different changes I've had in my professional career. So thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome, sweetie. Good to have you. Let me get my peoples in here. Hey, ladies.
Hello.
Look at y'all looking all glamorous and shit. That's what I'm talking about. Let me introduce my girl. She's been a regular on the Blackboard. She runs shit over at the Chicago Sky. She does Watch the Ladder. She is the bomb. My girl watching. What's happening, lady?
Hello, hi everybody. I'm glad to see y'all. Hi Keisha. I'm more excited to see you than Brian, if I'm being honest.
Can we just do this without him watching?
I mean, because you know he's about to start problems. I can feel it in my spirit.
He's going to drop a bomb and then walk away and watch us fight.
I would never do that. I'm so misunderstood. I don't even get where this energy is coming from.
Been doing this for months.
This energy is wrong. Alicia, come save me. What's going on, lady? Good to see you.
Bueno.
Tell him I'm the good guy. Tell him.
He is. I feel like there's a little delay here. Is it delayed on your end?
It's always delayed on our in our studio, so do not watch it live. If you watch it live on your end, you are going to be 30 seconds behind.
Okay.
So just pay attention to what we got going on right here. Don't let it throw you. Anyway, good people, Keisha already kind of led in with it. We are going to talk about, I got 3 dynamic, beautiful, intelligent, driven, passionate, I could go on and on, sisters with me today. I couldn't do too many of these before I got around to this topic of how corporate America and entrepreneurship treats our black women and the waters they have to navigate to be successful. I know it's a lot. I know it's different than the thing that brothers have to go through. It's definitely different than anything any of their other female peers have to go through. So I wanted to take this time today and have this conversation. So I'm going to start with Keisha since she's in studio. I'm so happy to have people in studio with me. I don't even know how to act, y'all. I've been doing this by myself for months. Keisha, tell me your journey, your story. Give me your background.
Sure. So I actually have had a couple of careers. I've practiced law for...
You got to get up on that mic, Keisha, or you going to...
Louder?
There you go.
I practiced law for about 10 years in federal court and decided I didn't want to do that anymore. Tired of fighting, and now I work in marketing. I specifically do communications planning at an agency. I have a client who is the government, and we'll leave it at that.
You work for them people.
I work for them people. But I love it. It's the job I think I've been waiting for my entire life. I get to work with creative agencies. I get to work with media publishers. I get to focus on consumer needs as well as measurement. So I have an outstanding job. But that wasn't enough. I think I decided I wanted to be into content creation. So I've launched an effort called the Blackboard TV, which is something that Brian and I work on. And they're roundtable conversations focusing on us, Black folks. So we talk about those issues that are important to Black people. And we kind of pressure test our cultural norms. We kind of call bullshit on our views and our values to see if the way we do things is the right way of doing things. That's how I've met Watching. So practicing law was good for a season. Working in marketing is good for a season. But now I'm looking at making an impact on Black people and just making our lives better. And the Blackboard TV is the way I'm doing it. So I'm in the embryonic stages of that, but I'm looking forward to see how that materializes.
Boy, you can tell she a lawyer. She be using all the big words and shit. Embryonic and shit. I said, girl, go on, girl. Watching, give me a story. Where'd you go to school? How'd you get into what you got into? And then tell me about your entrepreneurial efforts.
Sure. So, hey, y'all, my name is Watching. I went to undergrad at DePaul with a W in Indiana, so not in Chicago. Majored in communications. And I'm actually one of those people who has had a phenomenal corporate career. Like, I have no complaints about the things that I've gotten to do. I've had some great opportunities. I've learned a lot. I've made a ton of money doing what I wanted to do, have great relationships. And
Wait. Ton of money?
Brian, don't count my pockets. Like,
I'm all in your coins. You said a ton of money.
Listen, I got enough to take care of myself, and like that is what matters. But so my career started. I worked in LA, worked for a casting director, hated LA, moved to New York, worked in marketing for Comedy Central for a while, and then went to Hearst Digital to help them start their transition from print publications to digital. Then I managed AT&T and Sprint for North America for Yahoo. Moved back to Chicago, consulted with Ebony and Jet for a while. And then, as Brian mentioned, up until December of last year, I was the Senior Vice President of Marketing Partnerships for the WNBA team in Chicago. And something interesting, so I left my full-time position in December of last year to run my own company full-time. So I Choose a Ladder. It's a career development company specifically for ambitious Black women who want to stay in corporate. But even though I left my full-time job in December, I'm still 1/3 of the senior leadership team. So there's that. Everybody's quiet. Yep.
Well, excuse me. I'm still stuck on you.
But I love
you earn a ton of money. I'm still talking about that shit.
You still talking about my coin? You still talking about this bag? But I'm a full-time entrepreneur now. But what I realized, though, is that not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And I feel like this narrative that is out here of like the only way to build wealth is through entrepreneurship. I know some entrepreneurs and they're trash and they're making no money and they're not doing anything that's being impactful to anyone. And so like, we have to stop shaming people who are like, listen, I like the security of corporate. I like these things and this is how I want to live my life. We can't shame people into prosperity. That's just not how it works.
No, agreed. And entrepreneurship isn't for everybody. It's not, everybody's not built for that. So I get it. All right, Alicia, give me your story. Give me your background. Break it down for me.
Hey. Good evening, everyone. So it's been quite an interesting twist and turn. I went into education after graduating from the University of Illinois in Champaign.
ILL.
INI, which basically qualifies me to know everybody and their entire family in the city of Chicago and possibly the state of Illinois and surrounding areas. So from there, I ended up leaving the University of Illinois as a single mom. And so there were some pivots and turns right out of the gate. And although I thought I was destined for psychology, I ended up actually first stop at a shopping mall. And I only share that because I'm so far away from that point. But like, you always got to remember like where you came from. And a good friend of mine saw me working in a mall and she's like, girl, you should come and work in education. And I said, absolutely not. They make no money. And she said, well, it depends on where you are. So I talked to a soror and just some other people. I actually went and talked to quite a few people in the field of education, and I started looking at the different options because I was actually in grad school for counseling psych. So the pivot immediately out of U of I was like from psychology to shopping mall into education. And so I started my career as a high school English teacher. Absolutely loved it. Met migraines in year 2. And so just those moments of kind of like crawling to the car at 10 o'clock at night, after a couple years was like, okay, there's got to be more to it than this. And I just felt like there were so many different challenges in the field of education that it had me wondering after like year 3, 4, if I had made the right decision and if I could actually have a level of impact that was necessary and needed. So, of course, like a lot of people in the field of education, and I'm giving y'all the fast, quick, abbreviated version, but I ended up going into ed leadership because, of course, when you want to solve problems, you go into leadership. You leave the poor babies in the classroom and you go into leadership. And so I have been everything from classroom teacher at the high school level in the suburbs. I started at Evanston Township, which is actually where I graduated, and a lot of pride there, but a lot of drama, racial tension, segregation, you name it. And so it was an uncomfortable experience to say the least, but I learned a lot from a lot of amazing people, and it catapulted me into leadership. And as a leader, it's interesting now to look back. I didn't even realize the impact at the time, but I actually was the first Black person, not first Black woman, first Black person to be an administrator when I took my very first job as an AP, as a leader. And so that came with a lot of drama. I mean, I went in like I know my stuff. I had a background in curriculum and instruction, and I just thought I was tight work and I was going in to like do some meaningful things. And I spent a tremendous amount of time actually just trying to prove myself, throwing my degrees around. This is my experience. This is what I bring to the table. And just it was very combative, to say the least, being the sole person in the building of color. And I had a couple other people, and I don't know that they quite realized that they were of color. So that was a whole nother experience for me. And then of course they were the children. And so I ended up being like the dean of students, the counselor, like you name it. But again, another incredible experience. And so over time in education, I absolutely love it. But I realized that there were other things that I could do with those talents, like leadership development is universal. And from there, ended up pivoting into entrepreneurship. Just a little bit of a different spin. I'm one of those people who's like, I hate to report to a job. Like the thought of having to be somewhere at a particular time because someone said so is like, it's not for me. So I was like, what can I do? And I had just created this identity as an educator for so long that, that was kind of like the challenge to the second pivot. And I went into entrepreneurship just kind of faced and actually had a lot of success and a lot of failures.
Okay, so you said you pivoted in entrepreneurship. What did you pivot into?
All right. Well, a couple different things. I'm so glad you asked. So in recognizing, like I said, that educators, like we wear many hats on any given day. And I said, what are the main things that I'm really good at? And I have been doing leadership development really from the get-go. And so I said, what are some of the problems that as an entrepreneur I can solve? So one of the main problems that I actually have heart and passion for is education still. And so I established myself as an educational consultant. And I really believe wholeheartedly that that work is necessary. And I do a lot of work around leadership development, but specifically to support leaders and educators on race, racism, and actually providing high quality instruction and curriculum for our Black and Brown kids. And then secondly, I am very passionate about wealth building. And so those are two challenges that I think our community, I mean, all communities have challenges, but I'm most passionate about ours. And so going into entrepreneurship on the side of ed consulting. And then also I do a lot of work and I'm really passionate about helping people level up, but most especially empowering women. For women who want to stay at their jobs and have additional income, for women who want to leave, you know, whatever it is that they're doing and transition into what they actually really want to be doing. And then for women who stay at home and want to be a value or asset. And so I really love working with successful women who want to take their life from ordinary to extraordinary.
Woo. Love all that. Love all of that. All right, we're gonna that's a hard shift. I got to pivot now, but so all of you all have decided to venture out and do things outside of the corporate or educational space, which is amazing. Keisha, you were an attorney, decided to pivot into marketing, and now we're trying to make a pivot into creation. Okay, so tell me a little bit about, clearly there were some hurdles as an attorney in the field of marketing, which I'm in as well. Share some of your stories or your hardships where it comes to navigating these waters as a Black woman in corporate America.
So honestly, Brian, it's been a delightful experience, actually.
Delightful.
Absolutely. You asked us what would we change, and I've been thinking about that. I don't know if I would change a thing. I needed to practice law. I was 22 when I got licensed. So what do you know at 22? Absolutely nothing. So you do what your parents tell you to do. It was a good career. To Washington's point, you made a bunch of money. I'm smart, so of course it made sense. I can argue. Made perfect sense.
Well, you're a woman, so we know you can argue.
Well, for fact.
Brian, let's not do this today. Let's not.
Sorry.
I am an advocate for myself and others. So no, it was a good experience. 10, 11 years, I had enough. I think for me, it was important to be true to myself. The woman I was at 22 was a very different woman at 34. I don't want to argue. I don't want to fight, certainly not for banks. So I needed to do something different, and I wanted to be in a place where I could be more creative and less adversarial. And it was a matter of going to school and learning a little something different and making a plausible argument. Practicing law and working in marketing are similar. There are some parallels. So I was just confident enough to craft a story that said, I did this, I'm confident I can do that. And here we are literally 7 years later, and I'm making more money than I was making when I was practicing. And I took a huge pay cut. I paid more in taxes than I made my first year when I made that pivot. But I believe in myself, and now I'm good, and I'm in an ideal job. So the only challenge for me was sort of the whole phrase starting from the bottom. Like, I legit started from the bottom. I'm working with kids who are 23 years old, and this is their first job. And it's not my first. I come in here with a very different experience. So it was hard being a fish out of water, as it were. And there are no Black people. So it's equally, it's a bigger hurdle being an older Black woman and trying to make a name in a completely different industry that was foreign to me. But it was worth it because it was peace of mind. Like, I could not go another 10 years practicing law. Fighting is a lot on your spirit. Being adversarial is difficult. And I knew I didn't want that for my life, and I had to figure, hey, the prestige that comes along with being an attorney, the money that comes along with being an attorney, it's not worth it. My peace of mind is much more valuable. So I took a gamble, but it paid off. I have no complaints. I wouldn't change a thing. I don't regret it for a moment. I don't even question it anymore. And having made that transition into marketing and advertising has exposed me to something different. Now I'm thinking about things differently. Now I'm thinking about the power of messaging and the power of images and how I want to change that. So, but for working in advertising, the idea of doing the Blackboard never would have come about. So again, my steps have been ordered. I don't regret the move at all. So the challenges have been minimal. The payoffs have been plentiful. I don't regret it for a moment. It was absolutely worth it.
My steps have been ordered.
Ordered. Preach. Come on. I got the tambourine player.
All right. Okay. let's go. Watching. What about you? You've. I know. Go ahead. You got it. You know what this is.
So when I first so the reason that I Choose a Ladder is because of being called out on my privilege, right? Mm-hmm. And so because I went to undergrad through the Posse Foundation, at 18, I had a mentor who was on the cover of Forbes, and I didn't think it was a big deal because that's what I was around, right? And so as I've gone through corporate, I'm very clear that my experience is not the normal experience for Black women in corporate. And for me, I feel like there's a responsibility to pay that forward and like put people on what I know, right? Because there is no, for me, pleasure in being the only one, right? Like, I want to hang out with other Black folks. Like, we are the best things to ever happen to this planet. And so as I'm going through work, I want to be going through work and these different with other Black people. And if there's anything I can do to put them on, I'm gonna do it. If there's access that I can give that I have, I'm gonna do it. Just because I don't want to go through this with other people. I really, really, really like being Black. Like I don't know if I can say, like, I really like being a Black woman. But one of the things that I feel like I learned to do at a very early age is to have my receipts. So if you're a Black person, like, they're always trying to come for you. Well, how did you get here? Oh my God, you work for the WNBA. How did you get this position? There's always a questioning of if you belong in the spaces that you are in. That I feel like I was groomed at a very early age to know how to check in a very classy way and then move the F on, right? Like, so it happens all the time. When I first got my job, the person who had the title before me was like 14 years older than I was at the time. And it was a white man. And so when I would go into meetings and into spaces, like, I would get a side eye all the time. And I had to be like, I need you to understand that the person who was here before me, they ain't all the way correct, right? Like, I feel like you always have to validate yourself over and over when you're a Black person in corporate. And for a lot of people, that it gets exhausting, right? And it's, for me, it is not a desired experience to be the only one in the room who looks like me. I don't enjoy it. I don't crave it. I don't want it. It's not something that I want to do. And so I think of the challenges that have been the most kind of like that have kind of woken me up a little bit. It's like when I go into spaces, I said this is not like a professional thing, but so I'm currently getting my MBA at the University of Chicago. And we had a party, it was like a boat party. And I was the only Black woman on the boat who was not staff, right? And so I spent the entire time talking to the staff because I'm like, I don't want them to think that I think I'm better than them because I'm out here with these people who don't look, right? And so my entire time was not spent networking. It was spent with the other Black people who just so happened to be working for us at that night, right? So it's like a weird mental space to kind of feel like you're always between two worlds. But I feel like, and I mean this with all of my soul, Black people belong in every single room. And so whatever we need to do to make sure that we are confident enough to show up in the spaces where we are, like, it's our responsibility to develop that confidence. But yeah, like, they try you all the time. And if you let them break your spirit, they will, right? That's how corporate is set up. You have mediocre people questioning JDs, right? Like, we're not doing that. Right? Like, I have no tolerance for that, but I feel like that's been the most frustrating part, is having to always prove that you belong in the seats that you sit in.
Let me ask you this. Great points. Do you think it's different in any way, shape, or form being a Black woman in these positions as opposed to a Black man?
I think because of the patriarchy, because you're a man, right? And so, yes, you are Black, but you're also a man. So when it comes down to it, between a Black man and a Black woman, you're a man. So you get the benefit of patriarchy. Whereas as a woman, I'm a woman and I'm Black, right? And there are already these stereotypes that come along with being a Black woman that are not necessarily the most complimentary about us and our personalities and how we talk and how we move and our hair and all of these things. Like, white people love y'all until y'all become their managers, right? Like, there's a love relationship for Black men that we don't necessarily get that same endearment as Black women. And so it's not like, let's not compare struggles, but it is very different as a Black woman in these spaces because you have the benefit of patriarchy.
No, I agree. We just had this conversation actually the other day. I agree wholeheartedly. Alicia, let's hear it. What have been some of the and you've already said that when you were in education, you were the only black face in the room. I'm sure there were some struggles and power struggles that came with that.
So listen, I think Washington said like a whole sermon. Like I just want to branch out and holler at her, and we could do a whole nother podcast. So much of what she said truly resonated. But when I moved here to South Florida, I did go into a leadership role at the district level. And I just thought, yes, I have made it. This is going to be my moment. It's going to catapult me to exactly where I want to be. This is going to open up doors to speak at the university. I'm going to get my doctorate. Like this is the stepping stone I have absolutely been waiting for. And here's where this conversation is about to get super interesting. I had no plans for discussing this, but since we're here, I'll go ahead and just throw this out here. So I ended up having a boss who was a Black man. And I was so excited, like, yes, this is a takeover moment. And he was someone I perceived to be really smart and really talented. And he had a lot of ideas that were innovative in the educational space. That education a lot of times is very stagnant. And y'all, I'm in South Florida, so I ain't gonna diss my state where I live, but if anybody knows, y'all know. So coming from Chicago, a lot of the challenges were kind of that, who does she think she is? She thinks she knows it all. But also the same messaging was, we brought you here as a fresh lens. We brought you here because of your experiences outside of Florida, outside of this district. So it was almost like a double-edged sword. Like, we brought you here because we feel that you have a certain skill set and a talent, but don't talk too much. Don't show up too much. Just sit here and wait your turn. And when it's your turn, then you can be, passionate and smart and experienced and all the other things that we feel that you bring to the table. But for right now, we want you to take this low salary. We know we've lowballed you, and we want you to just be quiet. Don't use your hands when you talk. Don't roll that neck. Just sit there and just be real mild-mannered. And when you're in a system with education where you clearly see like blatant racism happening, I'm everything but quiet. I'm like a pit bull. And so I was calling people out left and right. And it was just, I got to a point where I said, why am I sitting here trying to prove to people, one, that I belong, two, that I actually have substantive experience and a wealth of knowledge that can actually create significant change. And although I had some moments where I felt like I'm really moving the dial here, it was more often where it was just kind of bumping heads. And one of the pivotal moments was twofold. One, I went in and I asked my boss, this Black man that I was so excited to work for, what's the professional trajectory? And I talked about this on Facebook the other day. What opportunity is there for me to move forward? Because I saw him as being someone who could potentially mentor me. Mm-hmm. We all know how important mentorship is. And I will go so far as to say not just mentorship, but sponsorship. White people get sponsored into their positions. And that could be a whole nother discussion, but yeah. I'm going to keep it sweet and to the point. But this is how I saw him, and it became apparent he didn't see me the same way. Because when I said, what's the trajectory? What do I need to do? How do I need to show up? Where? And the response was basically like, well, I usually stay in my position for 3 to 5 years. So when I vacate, you can have at it. And if you're really here to be about kids and education, we could do some things as long as you're not here just about the money. And this is someone who drove up to work in a Porsche and owned multiple properties. So, and then it ended with him threatening that if I didn't get on board with how he operated, which lacked integrity, that, he could just send me back to the classroom. And there's so much that is embedded in that statement, that the fact that we consider going back into a classroom as a demotion, that again, I could take us on a whole nother podcast. So that really, it forced me to level up. It forced me to recognize who I am, what I bring to the table, and what I have to offer. And fortunately, there's a host of other organizations, districts, and networks that really are looking for what I have to offer and do appreciate the passion. And if I start talking with my hands, they know some good stuff is coming. They're not like, oh, angry Black woman. So I think that experience, having that experience, and I made some assumptions, right? Like I'm working for this Black man and he's going to be looking out for me, was just wrong. And so I learned some things about, internalized racism and all those other, key buzzwords that really did force me to have to look internally and say, are you going to sit here and, wait for 3 to 5 years to maybe possibly get another $20,000 added to your salary, or are you going to do something? And I did. It's actually been a lot easier than I thought pre-COVID anyway, until I lost my ed consulting contracts for a minute. But it was a much easier transition than I thought, because once I made up in my mind that I wasn't going to be defined by this dude or, anybody else who didn't think that I was worthy, or that, I was making too much trouble, because I actually expected for us to teach children how to read, because God forbid that they should learn that throughout the course of a 6 to 8 hour day. Once I realized that, there are some people out here who are serious about education, it became a lot easier. And from there, the challenge from then was like, but I have other skills and talents. And so how do I go from being an educator to do some of these other things that I want to do? And it has been a struggle for a long time. And I think, once again, being put in a position, the pandemic comes, my ed consulting contracts get canceled, and I got a call from a friend, and I had a choice, and I pivoted. I completely jumped. And so now I'm like, I can do whatever I want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, I have a lot of things still, a lot of visions that I want to see happen, but I have been able to tap in on the entrepreneur side to both things that I'm most passionate about, which is education, and also helping women and people build wealth, whether it be on the side, full time, from home, or get in where they fit in. We walk it like we talk it.
We're gonna come back to that.
Brian, wait, really quickly.
There
was a really important point that I hope people didn't miss, right? And there's an analogy that we had in a conversation that I had a couple of weeks ago, right? So if you are going on vacation, you don't get to the airport and start unpacking, right? You get to your vacation destination and you settle in, but you don't live there. So you're not looking for your mama and them, right? You know that it's a temporary stop. Most of us treat these jobs as if they are the destination, not the airport. Right? Like when you go into a job, that is not your final destination. What is the function of the role? She said, I knew that I had other talents. And if it was not being used here in the way that I wanted it used, I knew that I had options. As Black people, are we looking at these corporate jobs in the same way? Right? Like we don't own these companies. So if you don't go into your corporate job with an understanding of the function that this specific position serves in your overall career, whatever you're trying to learn, what you're trying to get from it, your feelings are always going to be hurt when they treat you like it's a business and not personal, right? And so as she, for her, when she got to the place where she was like, this no longer serves me, she had put herself in positions to be able to be out, because it was just the airport. It was not her final destination. So as Black people, I want to encourage us to start putting these corporate jobs in their rightful place in our career stories. It's not the end. It's not the end. Right? Like there are other places to go from your current position.
No, and I think that's a great point. And Keisha, I think you can speak to this a little bit. Obviously, you shifted not even midstream.
I ain't loyal.
These companies ain't loyal either, Keisha. If they got to get rid of you, you think they feel bad? No.
Wouldn't miss a blink. So no, I'm not loyal
At all.
No. I've had 2 jobs in less than 16 months. There's no comment about it.
All right, hold on. Wait. You said you had 2 jobs in less than 16
Probably
months.
Less than that. I left July and then I started a new job in January. So yeah, and doubled my income in that span. So it was absolutely worth it.
Okay.
And you know what, Keisha? You know what that proves, Keisha? Black women, it's okay to change your mind. You thought it was what you wanted. You got things, was like, yep, nope, this ain't it. And you were like, I'm out. I don't have to stay here. I'm out.
5 months. I know it does. And I know myself well enough. I can't say that I wouldn't recommend it. But I do think for me, I know myself well enough. If this isn't a good fit, I'm not going to spend time trying to dance with you.
Well, here's what's interesting about that. And I think if you were of a certain age demographic, you've been taught that you don't want to have these jumps on your resume, right? But this is what young white people do all day in the door.
All the time. All the time.
I'm looking at their LinkedIn pages, and every other year they got a new job, and it doesn't seem to be stopping them. So do we think that, and I think that's right. I think we should take advantage of our opportunities when they're presented and not feel that we got to work at the post office for 15 years like, our grandfather.
Although there's nothing wrong with that. We are not judging the post office
No,
workers.
not at all. What
There's
I'm saying
nothing
is my grandfather felt like that's where he should be and that you should work somewhere, one place almost your whole life. That was like how he was brought up, and we're not in that vein. So there's nothing wrong with him. I'm saying we're in a different place.
I think it's a risk thing. I don't know if you all have ever thought about this, but I feel like black folks want safety and security more than other cultures do. So we don't want to take the risk of jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. We find something that's good. It may not be great, but it's safe, it's comfortable, it's steady, and it provides me with that security. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't have that same philosophy. I'm comfortable. I don't mind betting on myself, but I understand the need to have some safety and security and not rock the boat. So I get it. It's just not for me.
And I think that, I feel like the security net that a lot of other demographics have, black folks don't have, right? And so I understand the aversion to risk. So I think back to my parents, right? So we were immigrants. We came to the United States. My dad has only ever worked for the same engineering company. He doesn't even have a resume. So when I left my good job just because I felt like it, it was just something that he could not comprehend.
And that's what I'm saying, watching, right? I said the post office, but I just used that as the first place that came to mind. But yeah, right. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But the thing is, and this is so hard for black folks, for everybody, because you want to make your parents, you want the approval of your parents, and my parents don't have to understand my career decisions because they're not paying my bills. It's not like I'm making reckless decisions and then they have to come and bail me out. And so there are times where there was a phase in my life where the approval of my parents and working for a company that they could brag about to their friends mattered. I'm not there anymore, right? I'm worried more about how I feel at the end of the day because of my job, how I feel like I'm contributing. And so my perspective on the function that work plays in my life is very different. You know what I mean? I feel like for the non-black people, they have the networks. We are just now getting to the place where we are building networks for the future, where I can say, call Auntie Keisha and she can help you interview prep, or call whatever. That was not the case for the older generation. So I get it, right? But that also for black people in corporate presents challenges because there's a school of black corporate people who feel like they got to haze you in order to get you to wherever we at. And guess what? Our generation, ain't nobody got time for that. You're not hazing me. You're not my mommy, you're not right? And so there's a clash where I feel like a lot of wisdom is getting lost just because the way the younger generation approaches corporate and what the older generation had to go through to retain their seats, it's just so different. It's so different.
Let me ask this, and because all of you have kind of touched on this a little bit, and Alicia went to a great story about it, an unfortunate story, but an eye-opening one. Have you worked for or under or been a direct report to anyone, black, male, or female, and how did that experience differ from your other managers, supervisors, directors, whatever? Alicia, we kind of heard yours. Watching, you just kind of touched on it, so I feel you.
I don't like to talk bad. I don't like to talk bad about black people in public forums, so I'm trying to figure out how to answer this question.
I threw my dirty laundry right out there. I was like,
come on. This is what's in it for the black people. We got to be honest with each other.
I didn't have any problem. I was like, no, he's foul. You wasn't right.
Okay, so let's see how I can say this in a way. Keisha, I'm gonna go ahead and defer to you in this one. I feel like you should be the one to answer the question.
I have never heard watching hold her tongue.
This is the first. I've never. This is new.
I'm trying to think about what I can say without DMs or text messages that's watching. We know who you're talking about, so cut it out. But I'm gonna figure it out and I'll answer after Keisha answers.
No, my answer is not as salacious. I've had good bosses. I've had black women as bosses. I've had black dudes. My first boss was a black dude. My mentor is a Black woman, and I think she's a goddess. My current boss is a white woman, but she is the fucking homie. I've had very, very good luck. I've had, I think some of my career progression has been because of Black women as well as white dudes. So no, I've actually been pretty fortunate in that I've never, in terms of talking about my bosses, I've never felt like being a woman or being Black has been a hindrance. Now, have I experienced racism? Absolutely. Have I experienced microaggressions? Unequivocally. But in terms of leadership, I've been pretty lucky. So I don't have unfortunately, I don't have anything salacious to say.
I should have vetted you before I put you on the show. I'm sick of your old happy. I had good jobs, good bosses.
Because Brian just want everybody to be miserable.
That's
So
right. I didn't bring you on here to say good stuff. Alicia, tell me some more about your horrible Black boss.
No, but I can tell you about, that's funny. No, I can tell you definitely I have had other experiences. Like one of the best as far as being in the education field experiences I did have was being mentored by a Black woman, and she and I are very good friends to this day. And so that also was pretty pivotal in terms of being able to. That's probably about the closest I've gotten to sponsorship. And when I talk about sponsorship, I talk about where someone's really willing to get in the driver's seat of your life and your career. Like they're riding for you. And I have a really good friend who has been remarkable in doing that for me. And I definitely am appreciative of that, because even when I ventured into entrepreneurship, she was still there. Like, yes, go girl. Here's what I see as your talents and your skills. You absolutely are going to do this, and was just completely in my corner, willing to make calls and leverage resources for my success. And then recently, even in entrepreneurship, partnering with a good friend of mine, a Black man, and once again, got in the driver's seat of my life. And so I think that having that opportunity is, unfortunately, is kind of rare, that someone has the bandwidth, because a lot of times by the time we get into positions of power, success, great accomplishment, we're tired. We're like, I had to do all of this to get here, and I'm not risking it for you or anyone. So I have actually had the best of both worlds. I learned what it meant, to be with somebody who really didn't even love himself enough to be trying to mentor me. And I had, like Washington said, like just unrealistic expectations for what the job was supposed to do. And so branching into entrepreneurship, I've had incredible mentors as an entrepreneur who all look like me.
So I know how I can answer the question. So
I'm
going to differentiate. So I have a personal board of directors. And so that's like my mentors, my sponsors, my O-heads, my networkers, all those people. 50% of that group is Black women. The other 50% is everybody else. I've never been managed by any of them though, but they are the group that ensure with 100% certainty that I will never fail at anything that I try, right? Like they are there opening doors. And it's the Black women, when I tell you that, like, they hold me up, right? Like the level of investment that they have in me as a person and my success, like nothing but positivity to say about that. But they also know that when they leverage their reputation on my behalf, that I'm not going to embarrass them. And it's not going to be a lost relationship because they've somehow introduced me into their personal networks. In terms of being managed, right? So I've only been managed by Black people. In one situation, my immediate boss was phenomenal, right? Great guy. What I found with everybody else, though, is that ego drove decision-making, which ended up being very detrimental to the health of the business and the work, right? And so there were decisions that should have been made that, in my opinion, were not made purely on ego-driven thought processes, and in the end ended up hurting everybody. And so, like, they weren't nasty to me because, like, you're not gonna be nasty to me, like, I'm a grown up. But the decisions that they made in relation to the business and the work, because they didn't understand succession planning, because it was a status symbol to have the title, not necessarily a desire to do the work, because of X, Y, and Z, a lot of the decisions that were made from a place of ego. And typically you don't get good results when that's where your decision-making is coming from.
There it is. I like it.
Can I ask Alicia?
See, I wasn't shady to nobody during that one. Keisha, you should be proud of me, girl. I ain't talk crazy about nobody. I ain't say nothing about nobody.
That is not going to help my ratings, but all right, go ahead.
I'm thinking about our microaggression conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I'm surprised.
No, you got to elaborate. You can't just.
No, because I'm respecting her privacy. But we'll come back to that.
Thank you. So that's how you know you got a good friend who's not gonna blow up your spot on a podcast that could end up anywhere in the world. Keisha knows all my business, and she knows you, Brian, so she's not gonna tell it.
Nope.
Yeah, because you know I'll blow it up. I'll get.
Hell yeah, you will. And the thing is, you know some of the people that I would be talking about, like they are nationally known people, and so for the sake of everybody's sanity, I'm not gonna put them on blast.
All right, that's fair. But
let's go back to something, because we use the term sponsor, and I don't know if folks who are watching knows what Alicia means. Like I know my definition of sponsor is the person who's going to say your name in rooms where you're not. Alicia, I don't know if you have a different definition for sponsor, but if we could like talk about what that means so people really understand.
Sure, absolutely. So when I consider what it means to be sponsored, again, I would use the analogy of like someone is literally getting in the driver's seat for your career, for your life, whatever it entails. And so again, that's opening doors, that's putting their name on the line. If it requires money, they're putting money on the table for you. Like it is literally whatever it takes. If there's classes that you can't afford, they're getting you in those classes. If there is a conference, a seminar that you should be attending, they're getting you there. However that means, they are taking full responsibility. And I find that I don't know that is a common enough practice. And I believe that it should be. And, Washington, you mentioned something like if someone puts their name on the line for you, they know that you're going to show up in a certain way. But I also believe that we deserve a chance to actually fail too. Like, to not have to feel like you got to just show up and just be perfect, because there is a process of learning and growth, and you can only get so far by fake it till you make it. And so if someone is sponsoring you, they recognize that you probably are going to fail. You might embarrass them a little bit. Like, we should hope not, but like this could happen because you're learning and growing. And so that's one of the things, like, I feel like a lot of people, and Black women in particular, we get stuck because we're like, man, I got this far on my own tools, on my knowledge, on my experience, but now how do I get to the next level? And that's why I always am hashtagging level up, because people need help to level up. If they already knew how to get there, they would be there probably.
So here's how I think about the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. My mentor is wise, right? Like they have the experience and they have all those things. The way that I think about my sponsor, they have wisdom, they have access, and they have power, right? And they are willing to leverage all of those three things on my behalf, right? And so when I say not embarrassed, I'll give you an example. So one of my mentors is the former president of Comedy Central. There was a person in my network who wanted there was a position to be her assistant, and they wanted an introduction. Great, whatever. So her name is Michelle with one L. You send me an inquiry about wanting to be connected with her, and you spell her name wrong. And I say, hey, actually her name is Michelle with one L. So when you reach out to her about this, or reach out to her assistant about this, make sure that you are cognizant of that. Oh, cool, I got it. And then you email Michelle with one L and put two L's in her name. To me, that's not like that's like being messy, right? Like, so I don't think that you need to be perfect, but I do think that people work for years to build trust in relationships. And if they are willing to say, like, I'm going to open a door for you, you need to do your part, whether that's showing up on time for meetings, not wasting people's times in the meetings. Like, there are very basic things that I think that people can learn in terms of engagement, right? Because if someone's opening the door for you for a high profile person, you're not going to have a lot of chances to connect with them, right? And nobody's expecting perfection, because even the sponsors, they be trash sometimes, they be late, they whatever, right? So I don't think it's perfection. I think it's being clear on what the expectations are of you when someone leverages their network for you, on your behalf. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect
Absolutely.
sense.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I told that boy, I said, you spelled Michelle's name wrong again. Don't you ever ask me?
Yeah, and you know, people have to.
What's wrong with
Yeah, there's a level of professionalism that comes with this, obviously, and then there's a respect for you as a friend, as a coworker, as a mentor, whatever the case may be, the relationship is, right? You're burning bridges, behind me. That's unacceptable.
Like, let me embarrass myself. I don't need your help embarrassing me. Like, I can embarrass myself.
I do a great job at that. I don't need your help. Shut up, Keisha. Let me switch gears a little bit. So we've talked about some of the hurdles or non-hurdles in corporate and some of the things that have been great or not so great. Everybody's pivoted into an entrepreneurial space. So I'm wondering, what have been your toughest challenges? We've already kind of discussed why you did it, but what have been some of the biggest hurdles? How have you overcome them? If anybody out there was looking for some advice, what would you tell them? Watson, I'm gonna start with you.
It was all fun and games until I had to start looking at my sales pipeline, right? Like, I think when you're going into entrepreneurship, at least for me, I focused on the work, not the business, which was a big mistake. And granted, I will say, in full transparency, because of relationships, like I did 6 figures in revenue in my first 6 months, right? Which is not normal for Black-owned businesses or Black women-owned businesses, right? So I will, again, though, it's because of relationships. So here's what I say for people in corporate. If you are thinking about entrepreneurship in the next year, the next 2 years, and the next 3 years, what are some resources that you can get from corporate now that will help make your transition a little bit easier when you go into entrepreneurship? Are there relationships that you need to be building that you'll need to call on once you are not there? Are there classes that you can get them to pay for so that you have that skill set when you leave? I always say, like, corporate takes a lot from us. And so you need to make sure that you are getting as much as you give, because your title is borrowed and so is your salary. That corporation can take it away from you at any time. So what are you taking with you when you leave that can't be taken away from you? And for me, that was relationships. And so we have brand deals now at I Choose a Ladder that most businesses wouldn't get until year 5. And we got them in our first 6 months because of the relationships and my reputation. And so I think one of the challenges is like going into entrepreneurship with the mindset that I'm building a company, not that I'm going to be a solopreneur. And that requires a different level of thinking, right? I'm thinking about building teams. I'm thinking about salary. I'm thinking about projections and all of that stuff, which I don't think I had thought about before getting into that. And I think the second thing would be to get in community with other entrepreneurs, because a lot of the things that you are finding out in the beginning, somebody else has gone through it. And so I'm part of a mastermind group. It's a Black business owner mastermind. I have an accountability group within that mastermind that have helped accelerate a lot of the learning curve for me, so that I'm in a definite better place than I would have been had I tried to do this on my own.
I love it. Alicia, what are you thinking?
So a lot of what she just shared, of course, I would definitely co-sign on all of that. I would add, just really being clear about what you value. Really being clear about what you value, because when you go into entrepreneurship, when you work for someone, you're functioning within a system, and that system has an established mission and vision and all the values that are attached to it. But when you go on your own, you get pulled in a lot of different directions, and you got to be clear. And so one of the things that has really helped me stay on point, and it's funny because I did a live today talking about time management. And so recognizing that as an entrepreneur, some people stick to a 15-minute at a time schedule, but mine is a little bit more simple. I really look at what do you value? And for me, everything has to fall. Every action I take, decision I make falls within my values. And so I value wealth building. I value working with women. I value wellness, right? And I value wisdom that comes along with all this journey, that we embark on as entrepreneurs. And so as long as everything that you do is in alignment with those values, you're going to grow. And that is both the challenge, right? It can sometimes be a challenge to stay in alignment, especially when you're someone who's super creative and you got a lot of ideas. But also it's the benefit, because it helps you stay focused. And it is what attracts your ideal client, your customer, and your ideal partnership to you, is the values.
Real quick, Brian, a couple of things that I just thought about. So I think the idea that we have is make money and then hire a team. But in reality is when you hire a team, then you can make money. Because the question that you have to ask yourself is, where is your time best spent? So for me, I was doing all this stuff, designing social media, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't making me any money. So I decided my time is best spent on business development. And when we think about payroll, we're like, oh, we got to think about payroll for the whole year. No, think about payroll like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days out, right? And so I've hired people to do the things that I can't necessarily do, which has freed me, or that is not the best use of my time. So 80% of my time right now is spent on things that bring the company revenue, right? Because I don't have to do those other things, and they don't have to be full-time employees, right? There are different ways to bring people into your business. So as you grow, they grow with you. But one, how is your time best spent? And then the second part, and I'm not trying to be shady, but I want y'all to be just as quick with customer service as y'all are with sending invoices. Because if you are not, you are always going to be having to find new clients because they're going to leave. And so make sure you have a system in place to be able to service the business that you bring in at a level that is representative of the business and the quality that you want, so that you can grow the business, not always having to be like repouring new clients into your business.
Yeah, that's wise, very wise. Keisha, you might be the rookie in the room on this.
Without question.
So maybe you've already hit some stumbling blocks or hurdles, or had some wins that you want to share with the team.
I think for me, it falls into two buckets. The biggest challenges was about courage, sort of letting fear take a back seat. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we expose ourselves on these once a week. We talk about issues that matter to Black folks, and you put yourself out there. Like, we are pressure testing cultural norms, and it requires you to put your opinion out there. So you are subjecting yourself to the fuckery of the internet. Mm-hmm. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Easy for me.
Well, you don't. You seem to do it without any complications.
I don't care.
But I have a conscience, and it matters to me. So it took a long, long time for me to say, this is too important to let fear paralyze me. So I'm glad that I did it. I think courage was one thing, and grace was another. I have a pretty big job that keeps me incredibly busy, and so does the Blackboard. It's not 9 to 5 and 5 to 9. Like, I don't go to bed before midnight most nights. And sometimes you just have to extend yourself a little grace. I can't do everything. I'm not going to do everything. Some emails are going to wait. Some phone calls I'm not going to take. Some text messages won't be responded to. I have to extend myself some grace and allow myself to take a break. Some days I'm not going to do any work, and that's okay. I have a mission. I have a goal. I think what we're doing is incredibly important, but I also have to say there's some times where you just have to take a break and not open any one of these computer screens for the day. What's going to happen is going to happen, and it's not going to happen at the expense of your personal well-being. So courage to do what I want to do and not care about how other people are receiving it, and the grace to say it will get done. Give yourself a break. It doesn't have to get done today. Like, I think that's the Virgo in me that requires perfectionism, and it's not always necessary. So I am definitely in a different phase than the other ladies for sure, but I'm learning that growth is okay. There's no growth in comfort, and I'm definitely in uncomfortable positions now, but it's worth it for sure.
So has anything they've said today been eye-opening?
Yeah. So watching, like, my hat off to you. Like, I am so happy to hear that your side hustle is now your main hustle. Like, that's what we all are aspiring for. So you definitely just kind of given me hope, made me a lot more optimistic that it is possible. And so I'm sure I'll pick your brain and get some advice later on today.
Of course.
Yes. So no, I think it's just encouraging. I think the universe conspires. That book, The Alchemist. I think I just take comfort in some of those messages. So we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and the universe will take care of the rest. So watching, you're just a shining example of that. So I'm so happy for you.
Well, thank you.
No doubt.
Thank you. Oh, but here's what I will say. So I don't give people like, so I said at the beginning, I'm still 1/3 of the leadership team of my former job, right? So let's talk about that. Because of the value that I added, when I resigned, they were like, no, you can't resign. What can we do to keep you? So I got to decide what that looked like. Right. Like, and so I was able to keep them. They are technically one of my clients right now. Right. And so I was able to keep, and this doesn't count in my revenue number, but that's not the point. But I still make enough on that my business does not fuel my life. My bills are not paid through my business. Right. And so what I will say is, I know that people don't necessarily have the option all the time to plan for entrepreneurship. But if you do, put yourself in a position that you don't have to put so much pressure on yourself in year one, or else you won't be able to eat. That there's a different energy that you bring to your business if that is the position that you're operating from. Because then here's what ends up happening. You end up taking jobs that are not aligned with your values because you need the money, right? And then it becomes just as demoralizing as when you were in corporate. So if you know in 18 months, in 24 months, I want to be a full-time entrepreneur, what do you need to be working on right now to help you with that transition, right? And for me, like I knew 12, 24 months in that I was like, yo, I can't do all this. I'm in business school. I'm running this business and I'm the face of an entire organization. I was getting sick, right? And so I'm not about to fumble myself to secure all these other bags. Like, so, and again, aligning with my values, I had to figure out, all right, if I'm leaving, how much money do I already need to be generating to make it worth it for me to leave, right? Know your numbers. How much does it cost you to sustain your business every month? Know your numbers. What do you need? So if you want to make $1 million a year on your business, how many clients do you need? How many products do you want to sell? Do that exercise before you become an entrepreneur so that you are ready for what it's going to take, because there are so many things that happen that you can't plan for. Listen, clients cancel contracts. She just said her contract got canceled because of COVID. She's not going to die, right? Like she's going to figure it out, but those things happen. And so put yourself in a position to control what you can. And then like God is showing out if you really trust him. That's all I'm going to say. Trust the Lord and he shows out for you.
There it is. There it is.
So I would add though, Washington, like once you know your number, I would definitely say add to it. Add to
that
it.
Part. That part.
Add on top of that, because whatever you think your number is, it's bigger. Whatever you thought it was, it's likely bigger. And that probably was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. But again, I think it was a great lesson to learn in the sense that when you go big with your number, like you really yourself are going to grow into whoever it is that you need to become. Or you're going to figure out this is not for you and you really like don't want to do it. But if you truly are, once you decide what your number is, then you're going to go for it and you're going to do whatever it takes. And it's funny because we talk about it, like my business partners and I, we're like, you got to find the dog in you. Like you got to be a dog about what it is that you want and go for it. Just like I was a pit bull in the school district for kids, like you got to be that pit bull for yourself by any means necessary. You're going to make it happen and you're not going to let that fear bubble up because you know what your number is and you know what you got to do to go get it.
And then you say no to the things that don't help you get there, right? So there have been plenty of opportunities that sound good, but the number didn't meet what my minimum was to work with me. And so I said no. It wasn't personal. It's just not in alignment. So you're not going to take a bunch of $200 jobs and your end goal is $1 million. How many $200 jobs are you going to take to get to $1 million? You don't have the bandwidth, right? And so like knowing those things allow you to say yes to the right opportunities. And I know that sounds crazy. And I know Keisha talked about fear a little bit. There's a fear of like, oh my God, if I don't have this, then what happens? What happens is that you have room for the right opportunities to actually find you because you haven't filled it with a bunch of opportunities that don't serve you, but you took it because you were afraid.
That's a word right there for sure. Absolutely. Let me ask you this. We're about 10 minutes out. I want to touch on two more things real fast. I want to touch on what you would do differently if you could, and then I want each of you to take a couple of minutes and really tell everybody, what you're doing. Give them your social media handles. Break it down for them so they can find you. But first and foremost, Keisha, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I swear I have struggled with this question. I don't have an answer. I wouldn't do anything different.
I hate you.
I swear. Maybe I wouldn't have borrowed money to go to law school.
Okay, say that. There you go. Give me something.
That's about it. Like, my career has progressed in the right way. I've had lots of fun. I have lots of good stories. I have lots of laughs and lots of accomplishments. I have mentored some outstanding young people. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have borrowed money to go to college and sat my ass at home and law school and stayed at home. But everything else has been a really, really, really good experience. I don't have any sob stories, yo, at all.
Your positivity is
Pollyanna
sickening.
ass.
Your positivity sickens me. Alicia, what would you do different?
It's really hard to say because I'm in such a great place. And I think when you are, functioning at a high level in terms of energy, you recognize that whatever you went through for a reason. And it is what has helped and catapulted you to get where you are. I guess probably I would just take the advice that I just gave, which is whatever you think you want and or need, like 10x that shit. Oh, I shouldn't have said shit, but
shit, fuck,
I've been cussing
whore.
for the last
No matter, let's go.
You got to 10x it. I definitely think out of the gate, I had no idea. When COVID hit, I literally was left with like no income for a second. And I was just kind of in the bed for a second, like, all right, so now what? And once I made a decision to move, I really didn't know how remarkable my life was going to get in the middle of a global pandemic. And so, honestly, there are some foundational pieces financially and just the structure of my business that need some work. And I wish I would have known how explosive it was going to be out of the gate, because I can tell you I'm not looking forward to the conversation with my accountant about these taxes. So that's probably what I would have done, is just 10x my own number and believe that it was going to happen, because it went from 0 to 300 real quick.
Can I borrow some money? Everybody send me $5. My Cash App is at BFalse.
Get your life. I don't even use Cash App. Cash App, that's for the youngins. I'm a youngin. Senior. I use PayPal.
I'm a youngin. What you talking about?
Yeah, that's for the seniors.
So I think what I would have done differently is get a therapist a lot sooner in the process. So I had, and my therapist recently passed away, but she literally was so pivotal in me figuring out how to move in this way. So when I went to her, there was a lot of guilt because I had a job that a lot of people wanted and I was still depressed. So she called me a functioning depressive. So I was a high performer and I could get it done, but there was still like a layer of depression over everything. And in talking to her, that's how I decided that I needed to leave my full-time job and pursue this full-time, just because my body chemistry was responding very differently to the different environments. And so if I could do it all over again, because I only had 2 years with her before she passed, I would have gotten her as a therapist probably like 5 or 6 years ago, as opposed to when I did, because she just helped me through so many of my own like language, right? So Alicia said 10x that shit, but feeling like you are worthy of 10xing something, or feeling like you can 10x something and people will still buy from you, or feeling like I can walk away from this good job and I'm good enough on my own without the name of a company to back me up or validate me, right? Like those types of things I think stand in the way of us. And like, whether it's in corporate where you're like, I don't think that I can get this SUV title because of the self-talk or all the other things. So if it were up to me, I would have gotten my specific therapist a lot sooner in my process than I actually did.
We've had several conversations about taking care of our mental health. So that's another great jewel you dropped right there. Let me ask this real quick before I let you guys brag on yourselves for a hot second. Everyone, the three of you are single, and by single I mean not married.
Correct. I was like, where are you going with this, Brian?
No. What I'm asking it, what I want to ask, do you think, this is I don't want to ask this question wrong, but do you think
it's probably sexist? It's not. It's not.
No, not at all.
Go ahead and say it, Brian.
Not at all. Do you find that you've been able to make these moves and been more free because you didn't have the responsibility of anyone else to think about, and in that way, form and shape? Not, you know what I mean. Like, it's easier for me to decide I'm gonna quit my job today because I'm the only one I got to be worried about in that realm, as opposed to saying, baby, I got, and having this, this conversation that you have with your significant other. So I'm curious what you think about that.
So I would say it's the opposite for me, right? So my best year was in partnership, right? Because I know that I have somebody who has my back, so I can take risks, because if I fall, there's somebody who's there to pick up the pieces. Like, there's never going to be a time, because I'm not on my own, right? Like, and because I have a partner, right? Like, who I know Keisha knows I'm so uncomfortable right now, but because I'm in a relationship, and I'm in a relationship that is solid, I have so much security to take risks because I know that he's not going to let me fall, right? Whereas when you're by yourself and everything is just on you, it's a lot of damn stress, right? So people are like, you're not thinking about kids, but I'm thinking, if I fail, nobody's coming to save my ass. Whereas now, if I fumble the bag a month, I can be like, hey, babe, can you? And because of our relationship and the security that I have in that, I make bolder moves. I, maybe consider things that I would not have considered because I know that he has my back. But I think that's dependent on the relationship, right? And like where you are and how healthy it is and all of those things. But I think I'm more, I was more risk averse before being in a partnership. Whereas now I feel like I can take the risk that I need to get to 7 figures in a business, because I know that my needs will be met even if they're not met by me.
That's how it should be. That's the response I'm looking for. Keisha.
I don't know. I'm thinking about it. When I quit practicing and was fully prepared for the pay cut, I was single and unattached. I am recently single now, but I never thought about the possibility of quitting my day job and doing the Blackboard full time until, 7 weeks ago. Like, it didn't even dawn on me. So I don't know. I don't have a safety net. Like, my safety nets are now gone. It's just me. But I think I have faith that I wouldn't have had this idea. God wouldn't have given me this idea if it wasn't meant to be profitable and successful. So I guess I just don't think about it anymore. When it's time, I'll do it and I'll be covered. So no, I never even thought about the partnership route being a hindrance or something that bolstered me. When it's time, I'll do it.
Okay, cool. Alicia?
Wow. So it's interesting because I think my hairstylist is my therapist right now. So Washington, I'm gonna level up and give me a real one. But for now, me and my hairstylist, we were talking about this today. And one of the things I can say, so when I was married, my then husband, but now ex-husband, he quit his job. Like, I was fresh out of labor and delivery. So I've already kind of been through what that looks like when you just like have had it with your corporate job and you're ready to move on. And that looked like, hey, babe, by the way, pass me the diaper and I quit my job. So because I already had that experience, literally, like, I was at Northwestern Hospital, like, wow. And because I realized that there was a lot more money that came in after he quit that corporate job. I was like, okay, I can see this. And but then after getting a divorce, I was back on my own. So I went back into the safety and security of, a job and benefits and all that good stuff. And then when I jumped out on the ledge entrepreneurship the first time, I literally jumped out on the ledge and I had success, and it went like this. And then that joker went like this. Mm-hmm. So again, just having an opportunity to fail, it scared the heck out of me. I mean, I moved to Florida. That was a little bit of a jump for me, but I ended up going back into traditional, public education. And so I guess the answer is that at this point, having experienced both failures and a lot of success, I definitely feel like I was able to succeed rather quickly because I really didn't have I wasn't in a relationship, and it was literally just like, this is what I'm going to do. I didn't have to be like, hey, babe. So, I was thinking, like, I just moved and did it. But it is scary sometimes, like I joke a lot, but I'm literally like the man that my mom always wanted me to marry. And so I don't want to be the man, like, I want to be the woman. And I think most women like to feel a sense of security and partnership. So when it comes, I'm ready. And that's that.
You heard of fellas in South Florida. If you right, get your. All right, real quick. We gotta wrap this up. Keisha, 30 seconds. Blackboard, tell us.
We help Black people think about issues that matter to us, cultural norms, relationships, health. We kind of just take it from the position of what's wrong with Black America and have these roundtable conversations with diverse perspectives. And hopefully you see yourselves in some of our panelists. Watching is there. She is absolutely a regular. Sunday nights, 6 p.m. Central. You can find us on all the socials at The Blackboard TV, all one word, The Blackboard TV. Come check me and Brian out once a week, and hopefully you think about some of the way you do things and wonder if the way you're doing it is the way you should be doing it.
Sweet. Watching.
So I Choose the Ladder, career consulting for Black women who see themselves in corporate for at least the next 5 years. Our next large event is on Saturday the 27th. It's a virtual event called Career Vision. So if you have a lot of goals for this year but no strategy, you want to be at that event, you can check it out at careervision.ichoosetheladder.com. Our keynote speaker to inspire y'all is she's a strategist from Instagram and Facebook. And by her admission, she's currently in her dream job. So we're going to figure out how she got there. But yep, ichoosetheladder.com. You can find most of this stuff. And then for the event on the 27th, it's just careervision.ichoosetheladder.com.
Nice. Alicia.
All right. So I am absolutely excited about my newest venture. And it's really all about helping ladies level up in business and entrepreneurship. The plug is me. So you can reach me at EliciaT_B on IG or Elisha Bennett on Facebook. And for those women who are, again, they're like, man, I've had it with the ordinary and I'm ready for something new and exciting and prosperous that is in alignment with health and wellness, then I'm your girl.
That's what's up, ladies.
I'm mad that you let us call you Alicia this whole time when your name is Alicia. Brian, why you ain't get your life?
What are you talking about?
I called her Alicia this whole time, but it's Elisha.
It is Elisha.
Girl, I can't hear what you're saying, girl.
We got to get Black folks' names right. Alicia, so sorry for calling you Alicia this entire.
I've been saying it right. Follow my lead, lady. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Hey, ladies, thank you so much for this conversation. This has been amazing. I hope some people learn some things. I hope that you all will network, obviously, and I hope that people get out there and support the wonderful, wonderful work that you're doing. This is another episode of the In the Zone podcast. We are on the What's in It for Black People Network. Next week, I will have, I'm partial, another set of ladies, and we're going to have a totally different conversation. We're going to talk about, fellas, what you're doing wrong when you're approaching these women and how we can get you straight. And the ladies are going to school you next week.
I'll be back.
So get yourself ready. Hey, love y'all. Peace and blessings. Stay warm. See you next Wednesday, 7 o'clock.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye, y'all.
If someone would have told me you would come along, to reveal my soul, 'cause I was so in love.